Alright, Brush Monkeys, welcome back. This week we're getting into something that I've been wanting to get into for a while now. I'm really excited about this project. I've been looking forward to this since back in March. I went to the Paint-A-Palooza convention here at Tabletop Games in Kansas City. And as most of you know, if you've seen my videos, you saw that I took the Necromunda Escher gangers with me to that event and got a lot more of them done than I meant to. Like, I only meant to do 6 of them and I ended up doing 10. But because of that, I won a prize drawing for the most number of miniatures painted. And I got this kind of cool mat that's now under my workbench. I got a couple of paints and a couple of little miniatures. I got a gift card for tabletop. But the really cool thing that I got, that I've been looking forward to doing for a long time now, is I got this bad boy. The Collector Series Tomb of Annihilation Tyrannosaurus Zombie. And this guy, it's a limited series of 1,500, and big boy looks like that. This is awesome. So I've decided for this month, since it's October and it's coming up on Halloween, I'm going to do another sheep to shawl kind of thing, where I start out with the piece right out of the box, just unboxing, cleaning, assembly, preparation, priming, undercoats, base coats, shade washes, highlights, basing, the whole 9 yards. Going to do separate videos for each of these. And of course today we're starting with the unboxing and cleaning and assembly. So let's just get into this. I took the shrink wrap off of this thing just to, it says there's 5 resin pieces. I took the shrink wrap off, 1 to cut down on the glare from the lights, and 2 to make sure that there were 5 pieces in here, because it really kind of sucked to do an unboxing video and then find out I'm missing a piece. But all the pieces are there, so let's go ahead and get at it here. And the first thing, they're resin, and they're all packed in bubble wrap, which is pretty cool. Pretty nice that they all come in their own little individual bubble wrap here. 4 and 5. I think there's actually more than 5 pieces to the Tyrannosaurus, but there's 5 pieces of resin. I'm going to put that box aside because that box art is awesome. The first part, of course, is the base. This is the big base he stands on. And oddly enough, there's not, there's like a little footprint area in here where his feet go, but it doesn't look like, they really tried to make it like there was a blank space there for his feet. So like if you don't put them in there, it just looks like the footprints on a rock, which is kind of cool. However, that little base, I never liked doing even sculpted bases just by themselves. So I took a piece of plywood, well, not plywood, but like balsa wood, and painted it black, or just primed it black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to base him kind of like that. The way he looks on there kind of looks like he's sticking out over both sides. So I'm going to like maybe center that up like that, glue it on there, and then you know, once I get this piece cleaned up, glue it on there and then do like a jungle basing kind of thing. So I got that. Alright, I have not undone any of these little packages, so I don't know what's in any of them. So I'm kind of, seems like they're kind of self-adhesive, which is kind of cool. Like, oh, like little bags. Oh my god, look at that. Look at that. That is gross. Oh yeah. Oh, this guy's going to be fun to paint. Okay, right out the box I can see there's not a whole lot of like flash lines or mold lines on this. There's a couple little spots that could be cleaned up, and it doesn't really look bad. tail, obviously. The tail's gonna go, oh, like that. Well, that's, you know, just dry fading it like this. That is not a bad fit. That doesn't look great, but you know, one side looks really good, and one side kind of not so much. I don't know what's up with that. There's something else supposed to go in there. There's another part of the belly, I'm guessing. I kind of have to guess how these things go because if you didn't notice when I opened up the box, there's no actual assembly instructions in here. Just gonna double check that. Piece of cardboard. Another piece of cardboard. Yeah, there's 2 pieces of cardboard, and then there's like nothing. So, no assembly instructions, so this will be interesting. You kind of have to just sort of wing it and figure it out on your own. Okay, I can see there's a couple of places that are going to need... See, there's a couple of places like this side right here goes together really nice. It's nice and tight, and no, very little gaps, very little overlap. Like right there's a little bit of overlap. But then you bring that same piece around to the other side, and there's a big gap down the side there. So that's going to need to be filled in with green stuff. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that after we clean the individual parts. But this shows the importance of dry fitting the pieces and making sure that everything fits together. This also kind of shows, oh, there goes the tail, how the tail's supposed to go on. And now you can see there's a big gap right there around the tail. It's like, holy fuck. But you can also get an idea how big this guy's going to be when he's done. Let's see. Some dinosaur mouth. Oh, yeah. Now, the lore of this guy, as I understand it, he vomits out other zombies. Like, you're not just fighting him, you got to fight all these little zombies he throws up. And here's a piece that there's a little piece of resin we're going to have to snip off of there and file that down, but that's okay. Again, we'll get to that after. Once I get all these pieces out, I'll show you how to clean them up, because there's going to be mold release agent on there. Oh, this is back legs. Jesus, look at the detail on this is amazing. I really like how this looks. And it's, dude, sharp. See, here again, where the feet attach to the base, the bottom of the feet, aren't really hurting for detail. That one's got a little bit of a mold line on it. But the bottom of the feet are all textured. It's not like they just made them flat so they'd fit onto the base. Like, you could actually use this guy with or without the base. On the other hand, he doesn't exactly fit to the base all the best. There's that, and there's how that one fits, but you can... Doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the body in between them there, does it? Not sure how that's supposed to be, how we're supposed to fit that together. It's alarming. So I'm kind of just dry fitting these pieces, and okay, so that's that one. That is probably why they detailed them the way they did, because you really can't fit them on there the way they're supposed to be. I mean, that's kind of a press fit, but he doesn't want to go on that base right where the footprints are. So clearly there's some cleanup to be done, some assembly to be done, some green stuff work to be done. We're going to need our liquid green stuff for this one. Go ahead and get that out. And another great product for this, let me move the camera out of the way here so I can reach this. Alright, another great product for doing a thing like this is resin. You have to use super glue to fill in, but Gorilla Glue gel is fantastic because this will also help fill some of the gaps. But it does need to be shaken up every time before you use it. So we'll use a super glue gel, we'll use the green stuff, liquid green stuff. If it comes down to it, I have some regular green stuff here. I'll go ahead and keep that out and set aside just in case we need to do a little more gap filling on that, because it looked like some of them were going to be some fairly significant gaps. But yeah, so let's just start by cutting that little piece off its tab here. Just relying on the tab to fit in. Bear with me a moment here. No, it's not. Okay. Just want to make sure that part of that little tab wasn't required for connecting this thing to the body. And it's not. So we can just snip it off and file it down. And I'm just using a nail file that I bought from CVS Pharmacy. You don't have to use like full-on metal files. Resin is fairly easily sanded down. See? 2 seconds with the file and boom, it's done. So go ahead and keep that out. We'll keep the X-Acto knife out for the scraping the seams. And first and foremost, we're going to go show you how to clean these parts off, because all these parts that are molded are going to have, you can almost kind of feel it. It's a little bit of a slick feeling to it. It's a mold release agent. So I'm going to go show you how to clean these parts up, and then we'll get started putting them together. All right, see you soon. Bye. All right, so cleaning the resin miniatures. This is pretty easy. All you're going to need is an old toothbrush like this, and a little bit of dishwashing detergent, and some warm water. It doesn't have to be hot. This needs to be warm. And let that run for a little bit. And this isn't going to damage the plastic or resin any. Wait till that gets up to temperature here. There we go. That's about right. You just take the individual pieces, and it's just like brushing your teeth. You just scrub that dishwashing soap on there. If you're using an old toothbrush, you don't have to worry about taking any of the detail off. It's not, the bristles aren't that strong. They're not going to damage the resin any. The water is not going to damage the resin any. It's not going to melt or anything like that. So just give it a good scrubbing all over. If you're planning on gluing it down to a surface, it wouldn't hurt to do the inside too. And just rinse it off. Once it's all scrubbed off, it should lose new resin right out of the mold. Has kind of a slick feeling to it, and it'll lose that. It'll feel like plastic, but it's not going to feel as slippery as it did before. So If you lose that slick feeling, then you know you've got it. You've done it right. So just be sure and get it all over. Make sure you get the parts that are going to be glued together. So if there's any flat spot that's meant to be glued, make sure you get the release agent off of that. I was a little worried about maybe losing some of his teeth breaking off, but that's pretty strong resin. And if you're wondering where I'm putting them, I've got a towel behind the camera here that I'm just putting them on there to dry, and you're going to want to let them sit and dry. You can pat them dry, but really you just let it air dry and that'll be good enough. Be real careful with the small parts, you don't lose them. Little tiny T-Rex arms are going to roll down the drain if I'm not careful. Come here. Funny thing about doing something like this, since it's a zombie T-Rex, if I accidentally fuck up and break one of these claws off, it's not going to look that out of place. Because he's kind of rotting anyway. So I wanted to do, while I'm doing this, I wanted to do a complete sheep to shawl thing with the unboxing and all the different steps of this, because the last one I did, if you'll remember, was the Frost Giant, and I got some compliments on it. I got some good information out in it, but at the same time that video was made while I had shitty camera equipment and shitty sound equipment, and so I felt like some of the information might have been a little bit lost in the poor equipment. So I figured this gives me a chance to not only do a project that I'm really excited about, but also to fix some of the errors of my past and get the information out there on in a format that's actually understandable. And you can see what's going on, you can hear what's going on. And I don't think I covered the cleaning on the last one either, this step that I'm doing now, because for the most part, like, the sheep to shawl thing was a Reaper Bones thing, and the Reaper Bones figures don't really need a whole lot of cleaning. Like at most they'll need, you might need to soak them in hot water and then bend a piece back into shape. Like maybe it'll have a bent sword or a bent axe or something. Some arm not going completely straight. But for the most part, resin pieces are pretty straightforward. We're almost done here. Just got the two main body pieces to do. Really looking forward to this guy. I've got a neat color scheme picked out for him that I think is really going to look fantastic on him. fact that it's just so gross. You've got exposed muscle, exposed bone, exposed guts. I don't know why, but I really like painting really gross stuff like that. But yeah, Death Guard section of the last box set for Warhammer 40k that came out. The Space Marines were all kind of straightforward, and I did them all practically in one setting. I think it was like over 1 or 2 days, but they went together really fast. The Death Guard, on the other hand, I painted them all as like individual characters and just really took my time with them. And they came out fantastic and just looked really disgusting. Because of the size of this, the base coats video may be 2 separate videos again. I don't want to do a 2-hour video like I did with the Frost Giant. On the other hand, the Frost Giant one I did all on camera, and this one I might do the way I do my normal videos, where I'm just kind of tell you what I'm going to do, then turn the camera off and do it, and then come back and show you what I did. So yeah, that's all that's involved in washing the pieces. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and put them aside to dry and take a little break. We'll see you guys soon. Bye. Alright, Brush Monkeys, I'm back, and all the pieces are dry now. They've been sitting out on the towel for a while. And now I'm just going to go through and like clean up all the little edges, all the little mold lines, and all the, I've got my seam scraper here. And all I'm doing is just I'm kind of trying to bevel the edges somewhat, which will help get rid of some of those edges. But basically just scraping it like that. And ideally, when I'm done with this, and when I've done them on both pieces, then the pieces will fit together better. You can kind of see how that one's going to leave a gap, but that side's going to fit really tight. That little gap will be, hopefully that'll be closed up when I do both sides of it, because you can see there's some little spots in there that needs to be carved out, and that'll fit in that a little better. So, but that's the idea, is just go around the piece, clean up all those little mold lines. If you've got space like that where it's got a little bump on it, sometimes you'll see little areas like this that need to be cleaned up. This one's got a like mold line going through the middle of the ribs. That's kind of stupid. I'll go through and dig that out. But that's going to take a little while. So I just wanted to show what I'm doing, and then I'll turn the camera off and go do it, because I know this is going to be boring as hell watching me sit here and scrape this whole thing. But for the most part, you're just trying to get all these little mold lines and all the little excess resin off of there. And you can also, let me dig out my sanders here. I've got like a ridiculous number of this emery boards from CVS, different size emery boards. But I've also got these little things, and these come in different sizes too. There's blue ones, white ones, and gray ones, and they're all different coarsenesses. And they're for sanding sticks, basically. They're for sanding getting into really fine areas, like that little piece that's right there on the chest. Maybe I'll sand that down like that. So I can get in there, get in between those ribs and sand that down. And it helps for getting into all those little weird shaped areas that you may not be able to get into otherwise. But after I seam scrape it, I'll go around with these things and smooth them all down. You can kind of see how that affects where I scrape down with the seam scraper. You don't have to do it very hard or very long. It's just, it has an impact on it pretty quickly. Smooth those down. Some spaces you can hit with there's a little flat edge right there. Just rub that in there. Maybe we want to get these edges done a little bit. Let's go around it like that. You can get different grits of sanding sticks for those. And then I've also got, get all those out of the way, I've got just straight sanding paper, which this is, Testers makes a set of sanding paper that all comes in different grits. And it goes from like really coarse grit, progressively finer and finer and finer, until you get down to this one. This is almost just a straight piece of paper. You can't feel hardly any grit on that at all. And you just start with the thickest, work your way down to the thinnest, and smooths all that down and helps to get everything kind of leveled out. I'm going to keep these sanding sticks out because I want to keep using these. For these irregularly shaped pieces, these sanding sticks work the best, so I'm going to use those. I'm going to keep those out and use those. For flat surfaces, you could just use an emery board like you get at any makeup section, convenience store, Walgreens, CVS, whatever. If you got a really big flat surface, you can use this. Like, say if this didn't fit flat on the surface, or you had some little bumps like you got right there, like this one's got these little sections right there. You can just take this and flatten that out until you can't feel it. You'll still be able to see it, but as long as you can't feel it, then you know you got it flattened out. You can do the whole thing that way. Yeah. Make sure the whole thing's level. Yeah. Sometimes the paper's a little better for this. That's coming along pretty nicely there. Get that all nice and flattened out, make sure it sits nice and flat on there, and then eventually I'll glue that down once I get it all trimmed out and everything. And I want to get the Tyrannosaurus put together before I glue this piece to the board, because I want to see how it's going to sit on there and how balanced it's going to be. See, I want this thing to be, I know it's going to be freaking enormous here, but I want to get some idea of how it's going to sit on there. See, get all this together like this, and that, and then, okay, that goes on there. So I want to make sure it's balanced when I put it on there. I might want to even put that sideways like that, so I've got it all like that. See? But again, the importance of dry fitting pieces. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shut this off for right now and go ahead and finish sanding and seam scraping all these pieces, and then we'll come back and start putting them together. Okay? And then we'll start filling in some of the gaps with green stuff once we get it all put together. So, alright. See you soon. Bye. Alright, brush monkeys. Got all the pieces cleaned and assembled. Got them put together, and he is looking pretty badass. I mean, he's looking holy hell, look at him. But, as with most resin pieces, he has got a lot of gaps in him, and you can see I've kind of started to fill those in on the side. And what I'm doing is I'm using liquid green stuff here. And just going to scoop a little bit out The stuff I've got is a little bit dry. Like, I may need to go get some more, but just scoop a little bit out, kind of roll it up. It works kind of like modeling clay. And all I'm doing is like filling in this big gap right here on the side. I'm just going to take the green stuff, roll it up into a snake, and just kind of stick it down on the crevice there. And you don't have to be like really excellent at sculpting for this, because it's what you're going to do is going to take an old brush, wet it a little bit, and then you're just going to basically paint it over that green stuff. And you're just going to use that wet brush to not only push the excess wet stuff into further down into the crevice where you need it, but you can also blend all that gunk in with the parts around it. I got probably too much for that gap right there, but if you can see where I'm kind of moving the slurry around, I'm going to move it into this other gap over here and fill that one too. Fill this one up a little bit. Push it up into this one a little bit more. Sorry, I'm trying to do this and keep it on camera at the same time. It's not easy. Just kind of blending it all together. You don't need to worry about brush strokes because it's going to make it look like that undead flesh anyway. And there you go. That's a little bit better. And you just keep on doing that all the way around it. Got a rather huge gap around the tail there. And just about any place you needed to put this thing together, it's going to have a little bit of gap on one side or the other. So let's roll this out. Probably don't need that much. Put it there. There we go. Just gonna put it down along that little crevice in its tail there. Just kind of push it in a little bit. Yeah. Sometimes it wants to cooperate, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the makeup of the liquid green stuff. The green stuff, by the way, is non-toxic, so if you find yourself licking your brush, don't worry about it too much. It's not gonna, I mean, I wouldn't recommend eating it, but it's not really gonna make you sick. If you're a brush licker like me. Oh, that was a little piece of it. This looks really horrible right now, but I promise you, when you get the whole thing primed and painted, you're not going to be able to tell where the green stuff was. See, that side doesn't look too bad. It doesn't have too big a gap right there. Let's come in over here. There's, oh look, a little pock mark right there. Spackle that in. And this gap between the leg and the body is, oh my god, that's huge. So, smooth it in. Smooth it in. And again, I'm not going to do the entire thing while I've got you on camera. You get the idea. Just continue doing this all the way around until you filled up all the little gaps. Try not to drop it. So I got all that in there to do. Oh, big gap between that die. I actually had to use the quick set for that one. A big gap around there, big gap around this piece. Big gap on that side. This side looks okay. And that's usually how it works. Like one side will look okay and it'll be pretty close in. And then the other side is going to need like a ton of work. And that's just kind of how it happens. So like I said, continue doing that all the way around. And then I will come back and show you the finished thing. I'm going to finish filling in all these gaps, and then I'm going to take a break and let the green stuff dry and set up, and then we'll come back and prime it. Okay, so the next time you see me, I'll be sitting up in front of the air booth getting ready to prime this bad boy up. So see you soon. Bye. Alright, so I just about got all the little gaps and whatnot cleaned up with the green stuff here, and I wanted to show you a quick little tip for right here. The rock base, where he didn't quite fit into where his footprints are, I found a solution for that. I put a bunch of green stuff on the base here, okay, and then what I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of this Nivea moisturizing cream. You can also use Vaseline. Vaseline might actually be better. I'm just going to take some of this stuff and put it on his feet. Just slather it on the bottom of his feet like that. Okay. You can see I already did this once, and that's why I'm using the Nivea, because it didn't work out real well. He tried to stick to the base, and I don't want him on the base just yet. I want to paint this guy and the base separately. But you get that stuff on there, and then you figure out where you want them, and you just kind of press it onto the base like that. And because of the Nivea, ideally, okay, now you've got an idea what he's going to look like when he's put together. Okay, how much balance needs to be on the base, so he's looking pretty good. But you can also peel him off of there, and now you've got footprints, ideally. You can do it a couple of times if it didn't quite take. Press it on the base, press it on the base. Go like that. And peel them off very carefully. There we go. So now you've got footprints in the green stuff of where his feet are going to go. And granted, there's footprints on the base already, which we talked about. But since he doesn't line up with those footprints, this will help you give him footprints that he does line up with. And you can still kind of sculpt out those corners. And like I said, when the whole thing is primed and painted, all that will just kind of blend in with the rock. I take a Q-tip or something and kind of clean that stuff off his base, because otherwise the primer won't stick. Also take a little paper towel, clean it up. I like using these paper towels that break off like little narrow sheets at a time, because you end up using a lot less of it. And it's also the perfect size to use for your dry paints, dry brushing. Clean up that moisturizing stuff off of there. And there you go. Now it'll take a little while for the green stuff to set up. So I'm going to go ahead and put this aside and let them set up. And when we come back, we'll prime them. We'll be ready for primer. We're going to do a zenithal priming on them. And then we can call this video done. But we're just getting started on the T-Rex. So this is going to be a fun project. I'm still really having a good time with this so far. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here and let that set up, and then when we'll come back, we'll get them primed up. All right, see you soon. Bye. All right, brush monkeys, we are back, and the green stuff has set up pretty nicely. On you can see this is the base. You can see the footprints in the rock. Looks really good. And our zombie T-Rex is looking really, really gross. He's got all his little gaps filled in. So the next step then is priming him. That's going to be the last step in the preparation process. So I'm going to be doing this with the airbrush, obviously, is what I've got set up over here. I'm going to be using my trusty Badger Patriot 105. Excuse me, Patriot Arrow. And for miniatures like this that I know are going to be fairly big and are going to be kind of show pieces, like I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, so I don't play a Tomb of Annihilation. I'm probably not going to use this guy in a game anytime soon. He's just a display model. For big models like this, I like to use the Badger Stynylrez primers. Now these obviously aren't the bottles they come in. These are the little dropper bottles that I put them in to make them a little easier to get them into the airbrush. But I'll be zenithal priming this guy like I do with most of my hero models. So he's getting all over black, and then gray from a 45-degree angle, and then white from straight down on top. Okay, and I'll be cleaning out the airbrush in between. So let me go ahead and turn on the air compressor and we'll get started. All right. I want to get all that out before I turn on the air compressor, because the air compressor is loud as all get out and runs constantly because there's a leak in it somewhere that I have yet to be able to nail down. You good, there's a leak in that one too. Outstanding. Now my usual standard of measurement on these things is where the cup comes up at like a 45-degree angle and then levels out. That's the level at which I'll bring the paint up to. Okay. This feels a little weird to be doing this without the without a handle on it, but I'm gonna have to do the underside, and then hopefully that'll dry and I can turn it over and do the top side. How am I getting bright tip when it's been running constantly? Oh man. There we go. Usually you think as long as you're keeping it wet, it will stay running, right? guy's a little difficult to paint because there's so many little nooks and crevices in this guy because of the rotting flesh and what have you. But some of it's like not taking the paint full on. Parts of it that from some angles look like it didn't get any paint at all. Okay, it's not entirely done, but you can kind of see in the places that I've had the green stuff sculpted on there. Now that it's primered, you can't really see the green stuff all that well, which is a good thing. You want that. You want to kind of twist and turn this guy every which way you can to make sure you get every surface primered on him. Because like I said, some places it looks like the paint hasn't touched them at all, when in fact I've been over it like 3 or 4 times, just that angle didn't quite catch it for some reason. Back of his eye socket, for example. Backs of his legs. Ran out of primer just shy of being able to finish this guy. So embarrassing. But from this angle, it looks like I didn't touch that at all. In fact, I've been over it like 5 times. Alright. Good. We'll do that now. Okay. So, he's going to be face down on the ground here. That's so wrapped up in just finishing the T-Rex, I forgot to actually finish the base. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to need a lot more paint than that. The rock also has all kinds of little nooks and crannies in it, so it kind of helps to like go over the lines and make sure you get all of those. Hit it from different angles. Shouldn't have to pump the trigger like this. There we go. Alright, that's that, and that's done. So, I am going to, while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, clean out my airbrush, and get ready to do the grays. And hopefully by the time I come back, the black will be dry enough that I can start hitting it with the gray primer. Alright, so we'll be back in a little bit. See ya. Alright, brush monkeys, so I'm back, and it looks like the T-Rex is dry. The black primer is dry. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the gray primer. And we're going to do that from about a 45-degree angle down on him. So a lot of the black on the underside of it, I want to make sure I really got the underside good, because this is just going to come down at an angle like this. And it's going to create those shadows. So I'm putting them on the turntable here. I'm going to use that to turn them while I'm doing this. And once he's done, I'll do the base the same way. Okay. So, fire up the airbrush. Okay. And again, because it's a big figure, I'm going to go up to the line on this one, but that should be, because we're actually going through covering less of the figure, that should be enough to cover both him and the base. There we go. Okay. Get that out of the way. And if you get done doing one pass on this and you feel like it's too light, feel free to go ahead and do another pass. Spend a little more time on parts of it. Really build up your color. Color is kind of a relative term when you're talking about gray, but little bit of tip dry here. So, I might have mentioned this in another video, but one thing you could do if you start getting tip dry is take a little piece of sponge. I use a piece of the sponge out of a blister pack, and just wet it down. Keep it in a little dish like this, and just every so often kind of dip the tip of your airbrush into it. And it keeps the tip wet. Keeps that paint from drying out in there. Coming out really fine point for some reason. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty neat. Yeah, see, now you can see black on the inside, dark gray, and all those details are starting to pop out. Do the same thing for the rock here. And again, for consistency's sake, I'm putting the rock on the turntable so I can get that same 45-degree angle. I can just hold the brush at the same angle and turn the turntable. That helps me get a little consistent with the coating here. Come on. There we go. Sometimes the airbrush isn't entirely cooperative with me, and you gotta argue with it. A little bit better. There we go. That's it. That's the stuff. Alright, that'll do. That'll do for now. Alright, so again, I'm going to set this off, clean out the airbrush, and then we'll come back and do the white. Alright, so see you soon. Alright, I'm back. I'm about to do the white. The white comes from straight down on top on zenithal priming. And there's two different ways you could do it. You could use white primer, which I've got my Badger Stynylrez here, or you can also do white ink, which sometimes works out better through an airbrush. Comes out a little less chalky, a little smoother. I use a combination of the two of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of drops of the white ink in there, and then I'm going to put a few drops of the white primer, if I can get the white ink open. Gotta be stubborn. Okay. So I'm going to mix them together here, and hopefully that will give me the coverage and priming of the Badger Stynylrez, while giving me a little bit of the smoothness of the white ink. Ideally, I'll get the best of both worlds out of this, but we'll see. The funny thing is I can't actually see if that's that's mixed right. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, so like I said, with the white, you're going to come straight down on top. So and again, you can go slow and get the best results out of that. Turn a little bit. And as with the gray, you can do a couple of passes and get the best coverage out of it. But really, you shouldn't really need to. Sometimes it helps to turn to the light to make sure you're actually getting coverage. Alright, so there you go. One zenithal primed Tyrannosaurus. Go ahead and put him down. Do the base. Base is a little easier because I can hold the base upright and do this. There we go. Do another pass this way, just take out all those little paint marks. And I probably should turn off the radio because I'm going to get dinged for that, so let me do that real quick. Doing the edge even though you really don't have to. Just like to make sure it got primed. Alright, so there you go. And that empties out the pot. Used up all the stuff. And that worked out pretty well. It looks pretty nice. What you should end up with is a very, very light gray. Like, you don't necessarily need it white, but a very, very light gray will make it will make the color stand out on it once you go to paint it. Speaking of painting, priming was the last step in preparing this thing this week. So next week we're going to we're going to start doing the base coats. And the first steps of the base coats is going to be the airbrushing. But I'll get into that next week. For right now, this guy is all primered and ready to go. And once I get the airbrush clean here, we'll get into how he looks. We're going to let that guy dry for a little bit here. Just want to blow out what's left of the airbrush here. Seriously? Ridiculous. Yeah. There we go. Alright, now we're talking. Yeah. Badger airbrushes are fantastic instruments. They take a lot of care, a lot of cleaning, and they are notoriously finicky about what you put through them. They're not the most forgiving airbrushes. Definitely not a beginner's airbrush by any stretch, and I probably should have gone with something a little simpler for my first couple airbrushes. And I kind of did. My first airbrush was actually the Citadel air gun, so it was a little bit easier to get the idea of, but for a double action airbrush I should have gone with something simpler. I went with something cheaper, so I had an Iwata Neo, which is not bad. It's decent beginner airbrush. If anything, though, the Iwatas are actually a little more finicky than the Badgers. The Badger makes a pretty wide variety of airbrushes. I use the Patriot here. I use the Patriot Arrow specifically because the Patriot is what everybody was recommending online. Unlike the Citadel paints, I actually did my due diligence with the airbrush. The Patriot is what everybody was using. I chose the Patriot Arrow because it's got a smaller paint cup and kind of tends to stay out of the way a little bit. And then I added, some of you may remember my Pimp Your Airbrush video a few months back, where I added the high roller trigger and the finger rest on there, and the quick release that's on there. So, anyway, now that that's done, get a look at our tier. Well, you can see from the base. The base is all gonna see if we can zoom in a little and get out of that light. Alright, so you can see the base is all done. You can still see the footprints in the green stuff. that I wanted to keep on there, but other than that, the green stuff pretty much blends in with the rock. Right? Now you take our little T-Rex here, and you can see all the places that we did the green stuff, patching at the seams, like around his hip, around his jaw, inside of his mouth, the other side of his jaw there, his other hip, his tail, all that stuff. You can't see where the green stuff is anymore. It just blends, which is exactly what we were going for. It's what we wanted out of that. So yeah, he's looking pretty good. I think he's gonna be pretty spiff. Let me dry fit him on his green stuff again. I like to keep doing these little fits just to make sure he's gonna fit on there, and there you have it. That's what he's gonna end up looking like on there. I'm gonna lean back a little bit. But when it's time, I will super glue him into his little spot there, and he is gonna look all gnarly and dead. He's gonna look pretty awesome. Yeah. All right. So, like I said, that's going to wrap up this week. Next week, we're going to start in on the base coats. And I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hey Brush Monkeys, Tom from Flying Monkey Studios here. If you like what you see, click like down below. Click the subscribe button if you want to see more and want to be notified when new videos come out. Check out the links in the video description for links to our Patreon page and our Instagram, so you can see all the different ways that you can support me in doing what I do, and get your hands on some of these miniatures that I've painted if you want one of your own. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook if you want to see updates and see when new videos get posted. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.